Hello friends, welcome back, or if you are new here, welcome. I have kind of a busy day today with things around the house. I have some Christmas decor I want to start putting up today. I have some baking I need to get done for a Thanksgiving party at my aunt's office that we are baking some treats for. And we are wrapping up some lessons with the kids before they switch over to their holiday curriculum for the remainder of the year. But first, I'm getting some soup going in the Crockpot. The temperatures have finally started falling and remaining low, so it's definitely has started to feel more like Crockpot weather. Today I'm making a creamy Italian sausage and potato soup. I have not made this recipe yet on my channel, so I will add it in the description box below for you if you'd like to also try it. I've only made this soup a handful of times. It's somewhat of a new recipe for me, but my husband's reaction alone every time he eats it is what keeps this in the rotation pretty regularly now. This might be one of his favorites that I make, and he's not necessarily a soup kind of guy. As I'm dicing up the vegetables for the soup, I'm also working with my younger two boys right here with their schoolwork. They are working on independent work, which is kind of a lifesaver sometimes, where I can work on dinner or work on baking or kind of clean, and then they need pretty minimal direction with their independent work. So sometimes my youngest, Theo, who's 5, he will need me to read instructions or something like that, and then majority of the work then he can do by himself. So if I have kind of a busy morning like I do this morning, I will sit them down with some of their independent work first, and then we'll go back through when it kind of dies down, and I'll do a couple lessons with them. I know I previously mentioned how there was some illness going around in our house. It's just kind of a minor cold, a small minor sore throat, a low-grade fever. Last week, my older son had it, and he was kind of out for, I think it was like 2 or 3 days. He just wasn't feeling that great, and so he rested a lot for a couple of days. And then Theo, earlier this week, he was down with a fever and just was chilling in his room. He wasn't really in a good portion of my videos for the last couple videos for the beginning of this week. And then it passed him. I think he was over it in only 2 days, and he's feeling so much better now. I couldn't really tell at the time when I was making this video, when I was recording right here, but I can kind of tell now that I'm going back and editing and actually watching it. My 7-year-old Lincoln, he started not feeling well this morning, and it didn't really hit him until right after this. And as I'm watching him, he's not as energetic as he usually is when we're doing school. He said he woke up and said that he had a little bit of a sore throat, so I had wondered if it was going to start. And then sure enough, after we got through school and he kind of was playing for a little bit, and then it hit him, and he was down with a fever, and he still is this morning. So it's been a couple days, but he's a lot like my older son. You don't really know that they're sick unless they're really, really sick. And so, like, my older son, I remember he had a birthday party, and I could tell like he had somewhat of a cold coming on. I think he was like 6 at this time, but he did his birthday party and everything. And like I said, you could tell that he was a little under the weather just because, and I thought he just had like a cold. And then we came home from his birthday, and I'm like, let me just check. And he had a huge, like a really, really high fever. I don't remember what it was, but I'm like, oh my gosh, you're like really sick. So it's like you can't tell. And he's still like that. He is 15 now. Well, he's almost 15. And you can't tell that he's really sick until he's really, really sick. And even then, so whenever you look at my son, if he looks kind of under the weather, usually he's actually very, very ill. And that's how Lincoln is too. He will kind of, give you little hints like, oh, I'm not feeling that great, but he acts pretty normal. And then as time goes on and you kind of like, if he looks a little tired or, something like he did there during school, he usually is pretty sick. So I had started noticing right after school, he was just a little slower than normal. Usually he's pretty energetic and always bouncing around. And I was like, let's just take your temperature and figure it out. And it was just a low grade temperature, but it has now really knocked him out. He's spending most of his day just kind of laying and napping and watching some shows. So, which is very unlike him. He just always, I'll be barely out of bed in the morning. The sun will barely be up and he's asking to go outside. So they usually are very energetic. So I knew at this point, and especially now that I'm watching it back, I can kind of see, he was kind of acting sick. He was a little more quiet this morning. I also think I tend to have a panic response now when my kids are sick, just kind of a trauma response from when Hayden was here, because we tried so desperately, constantly, to make sure that he was not sick ever. He was always sick. Even when we tried desperately, he just always was sick. And the smallest cold, the smallest thing that any of our kids would get, it would just impact him so greatly. And which is why we, really chose homeschooling, because we didn't want to also expose him to that many germs. We would homeschool our kids and he wasn't even exposed to that many germs, and he would still get so sick. So I think I still experience that, even though he's not here any longer. My first initial response is like to separate the kids, to just go full blown and try to get over it very quickly. And it's like, I have to almost in my head tell myself, like, he's not here anymore. Like, you can calm down. It's crazy how stuff like that just impacts you for so much longer than you expect it to. But anyway, I am moving on to making some eggnog bread for a Thanksgiving party at my aunt's office. My kids and I started baking for her office earlier this spring. We did it just to kind of help cope with the loss of our son. And it kept us busy and it kept us, in the kitchen, and we really enjoyed it. That's one thing that my older son, he doesn't love cooking. He probably gets that from his father, but so he does not usually want to be in the kitchen. It is not his jam. But my daughter and my younger two boys, they actually enjoy cooking and enjoy baking. So we kind of, during the spring and summer, we would bake for my aunt and her coworkers, and they really enjoyed it. So when the holidays came around, my aunt, she now asks us to bake some stuff for her. She's very busy, so she doesn't have all the time in the world to bake for her holiday parties, and she knows that the kids and I really enjoy it. So we are doing a new recipe. I have never made this, although I have had this recipe in my to bake book for quite a while, but I just never got around to it. And I'm not really sure why, because my family loves eggnog. I think my daughter is the only one that doesn't enjoy it. And but my boys, they're hovering. I don't know if you can see them, but they are hovering because they know that I had a little bit of eggnog left, and they were really pumped about this recipe. So they kind of kept peeking over to see how it was going. And like I said, they really enjoy helping bake. So, but this recipe, it turned out really good. We made several loaves. So that is why you'll see like I'm putting in a ton of ingredients. I will put the recipe in the description box below, and it is only for one loaf. And you won't see me putting the icing on in this video. I don't think I got a video of it, but I will also put that down below. And it is optional if you even want to put icing on it. You don't have to, although I did think that it kind of made a bit of a difference. So in my opinion, I'd probably add the icing. Even just a little bit went a long way, but it was a really great recipe. And although we made so many loaves, there were so many people that were kind of interested in trying this recipe. So we ended up, I don't even think we maybe have one piece left. A lot of it got sent to my husband's work too, because he had several buddies there that were wanting to try it. So he brought in probably half a loaf, and then my aunt had several loaves, but it was very, very good. If you guys like eggnog, I highly suggest making this recipe. Or even if you don't like eggnog, like I said, my daughter is not a fan of eggnog, and she ate several pieces of the spread. She thought it was really good. So there was one ingredient, now that I'm thinking about it, that is in the recipe, but we could not find it anywhere, and it was a rum extract. So I just did extra vanilla, and it turned out just as great. I would love to hear how it turns out though with the rum extract, but we couldn't find that, and it worked out anyway. One thing I started doing when baking bread, even just like dessert bread like this, is I grease my bread pans and then I lay a small piece of parchment paper down. That has helped tremendously, and I do it in almost every bread recipe now, because even though it will kind of, I mean, you know how like if you bake and you use grease or butter or whatever you're using to grease your pans, it still sticks. And and it does on the sides where there are no parchment paper still, even though it is very, very greased. I still have an issue, so usually I have to cut the ends, but it comes out so beautifully when you use the parchment paper. So there is those done, and then I added some of the icing over top. It hardens, and it turned out just beautiful, and it tasted great too. I got all of my baking done, and dinner was still going in the crock pot. But one thing I love to do around Christmas time, and my kids kind of tease me about this, my older two kids, I don't know why, but they think it's so weird to dry oranges or fruit and then display it for Christmas. I love how it looks. I feel like it looks so beautiful and just kind of classic. But my two oldest, they tease me, I think, every single year when I do this. So that's what they were doing. But I don't let it faze me. I still love to slice up oranges, and you can even do like grapefruits and different kinds of oranges. And it's pretty because they all dry out like different shades of orange and red and like little pinks. I think I've done lemon before. I can't quite remember though. If I did, it was before we moved from Chicago, so it's been a couple of years, but I love how the oranges turn out, and I like to just slice them. Sometimes you can do them thin. I think this time I did them a little thicker than I usually do, and I liked how it turned out a little better. So I sliced them, and I'll put them on a baking sheet, and then I just bake them really low. I want to say I put it at 300, the oven. It could have been 250, but I think it was at 300 for less time than I usually do. And then I'll just string them, or this time I just put in ornament hooks in them, and I hung them on the tree in our kitchen, which is not currently up. You'll see it in just a little bit, but I like to put it in the kitchen on our little small tree. And then sometimes I also will put them on, like hang them from the fireplace mantle. So that's how they turned out. I just love how it looks, especially in the sunlight where the sun peeks through. I just feel like they're so pretty, and my teenagers think it's silly, but it brings me joy, and that's all that matters. At this point, Lincoln was totally out. He had just had some medicine because I found out he had a fever, and then he is out sleeping. So we are putting together a Christmas tree that I have had, oh man, years. I want to say like 15, 16 years. And it was originally from the dollar store. So if you can imagine, it's probably not great quality even when I bought it. And so can you just imagine the quality that it is now? My kids like to have small trees in their room. And I was measuring it because the box said it was 6 foot, and I am barely over 5 foot. And so I'm like, do you see it? It is not 6 foot. But anyway, my kids each have a small Christmas tree in their room each year. My older son, it's kind of iffy. Sometimes he does, and sometimes he doesn't. He sometimes doesn't really want to deal with putting it up or taking it down. And so sometimes he doesn't. But my younger two boys and my daughter, they each have trees that they love putting up in their room. And they have a much smaller one. I believe it's probably half this size. And they usually put that up in their bay window in their bedroom. However, we had this one and it's kind of just sitting around. And so I was like, well, do you want a bigger tree this year? And Theo, of course, was like, yes, I want a giant tree. So we're putting together this very old, fragile tree. And as we're getting it out of the box, someone had stuffed ornaments with it. And they were like the handmade paper ornaments that my kids did in public school. And so they were kind of a hot mess. And it was missing tree branches, and it had tree branches from other trees. It was a mess, and it was losing the little pine needles the entire time, but we powered through, and it's a Christmas tree. I don't know how many more Christmases this one is going to be around, but the boys sure are enjoying it. Theo said it was the prettiest Christmas tree he's ever seen. So we usually will let the kids decorate their Christmas trees however they want to do it. And so that is kind of what we did here. I was just helping him put the tree together, and then we'll move it to his room and I let him decorate it. And then I also did, because Lincoln was sick and I didn't want him to feel left out, I had him put some of the ornaments aside. Lincoln also did choose some ornaments that he picked out at a thrift store. They were like little violin ornaments. So I had Theo put aside some ornaments and save some so Lincoln can feel included and help decorate when he is feeling a little better. Although we have quite a bit of Christmas trees that we put up each year, we don't usually buy new ornaments. We tend to get like hand-me-down ornaments from my grandma or my mom, other family members. If they are getting new ornaments, they usually will put aside ornaments and see if we want them. And usually my kids are like, yes, we want them. So we have a ton of ornaments. My kids never really run out of any that they can put on their trees. So that's why I think we got all these from my grandmother. She got new ornaments for her tree and gave us this bag. And so the boys were able to decorate a bigger tree this year with more ornaments. My daughter's tree that she puts up, she does like a theme with it every year. It's like a gold and rose gold, pink, glittery. It's so pretty. She has a small tree in her room. and she hasn't put it up yet because she said that she doesn't feel like it is Christmas yet. So when she puts it up, I will have to show you, but I love the theme that she usually goes with. This was that Italian sausage and potato soup that I had in the Crockpot. I served it with some homemade bread and jam. But now we are moving on to putting up one of our main Christmas trees. I say one of them because I did previously mention in a different video that we do have 2 Christmas trees that we put up in our living room. And although my husband and I have tried to kind of only narrow it down to 1, my kids really enjoy having the second tree. So we are going to do the second tree again. We have this one where my husband and I usually put it up and we decorate it together. The kids will help with just a little bit, but not much of this tree. It has a lot of glass ornaments and stuff, so they don't really help, but they have a tree that they put up and it has all of their handmade ornaments, and we just let them do it however they want to do that. And we put that one in the bay window in front. So it faces the road and people can see it from the road. The tree that we are going to be putting up, we like to have it right next to the fireplace. We feel like it looks really, really pretty next to the fireplace and in front of this rock wall. The only thing is we have to move this piece of furniture, and I hate doing that. And we can't really move it far because this rock wall, it is an actual rock wall. It goes on the left-hand side of the fireplace is a rock like walk-through hall that goes into the kitchen, and it's a rock wall on that side too. So there is no electrical in this wall, and it doesn't, like the TV and internet, everything is right here. So in order to plug anything in, it has to go just beyond this rock wall where there's an outlet. And all of our internet and everything is in that little sideboard piece of furniture that we had to move. So we can't really move it very far. And I hate that we have to do that every year. But if you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them because I have not been able to really figure out how to do this. And like I said, we've moved this tree around a couple of times over the years, but we really, really love it here. And if you're interested, this tree is still at Hobby Lobby. We bought it at Hobby Lobby a couple of years ago, and it is a 9-foot tall, I believe, ultra slim tree. It is so nice because you can put it in whatever area that you have higher ceilings at, and we have pretty high ceilings in our house. So it has like different shades of green. It has a couple little branches with snow, and then there's also some pine cones. But I did just see it at Hobby Lobby the other day, so it is still there if you need a new tree and are interested. I'm just showing you a couple of before and after shots, and this is Lincoln doing the nativity scene. We always put the nativity scene under this tree, and then we'll do the presents from our Dirty Santa game under this tree, and then the other tree that my kids will put up with my husband, we put all of our actual Christmas gifts under that tree. So he's putting out the nativity scene, and I do plan on doing a Christmas home tour. So that will be my next video. I'm working on it right now. So that's why you're not seeing as many shots as like a normal Christmas decorate with me video. You will get all those in the very next video. But that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as we went around and decorated around the house. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.